While at the movies, I decided to go pee before the film started, just after the trailers had finished. I bought and thirstily siphoned a large slushie and had no confidence in my sensitive bladder surviving the 2.5-hour experience. When I entered the bathroom, it was empty. All the stall doors were open and the spaces within unoccupied. There wasn't anywhere for someone to have hidden themselves at my entrance. I went to the first urinal in the row, nearest to the sinks, and started doing my business. But a few seconds later, someone stepped up to the farthest urinal to my left. I was fairly attuned to the ambience of the bathroom, or rather the sounds of the nearby theaters, and hadn't heard anyone enter. Nevertheless, someone apparently did, and they were at the far end of the row. They somehow slipped right behind me. Something about their presence immediately unnerved me, and I hastened to finish what I had started. I didn't look directly at them, but glimpsed what I felt was a fairly normal appearance. Black jacket, jeans, and sneakers. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off about them, and almost had a very misfortunate and unimaginably painful accident as I hurriedly zipped up. Stepping away from the stall, I took a glance in their direction and saw them staring right at me. The bathroom was lit fairly brightly, with several lights situated throughout the ceiling, above both the urinals and the stalls, and of course above the sinks. There was little room for shadows, and yet the man's entire face was shaded. He had no hat, and his hair was short cut and parted at the forehead. His posture was relaxed, and yet the weirdly and darkened face put me on edge, made me feel like he meant me harm in some way. I nervously laughed, unsure of what else to do, and stepped back, half turning toward the sinks, wanting to keep him in my peripheral vision, in case he suddenly charged at me. Even as I started washing my hands, he remained standing by the urinals, face still hidden, veiled by some sourceless shadow. I looked away for a single second, maybe half a second, a habitual glance at my reflection to assure that there were no crumbs or crud on my face. And upon returning toward the man, I saw that he had somehow disappeared in that brief moment. Unfortunately, I saw him again, now reflected in the mirror, standing in front of the bathroom's exit, blocking it. Turning away from the sink now, the little alarms in my brain signaling off one by one, I struggled to keep myself under control. Not yet certain that the stranger was serious in his confrontational, or at least unsettlingly provocative behavior. I was frightened, no doubt about that, but also angered. He was keeping me from my movie, for which I'd paid the steep IMAX prices. Finally breaking the speechlessness of the moment, I asked what he was doing. He didn't respond, just kept staring at me, with his face still unexplainably withheld from view. Had I not sensed something uniquely off about this man, I might have tried pushing him aside, but there was something so inexpressibly eerie about his presence, so fundamentally wrong, that I decided to instead do something pretty ridiculous. I took out my phone, and with the camera's flash activated, I took a picture of him. The plan was to threaten him with some sort of legal action if he didn't get out of my way, having the picture of him blocking the bathroom door as evidence of his arguably hostile behavior. The man didn't flinch at the camera's flash, or make any moves or gestures to indicate that he had an issue with the picture, which I of course found unnerving. But what I found absolutely terrifying, what sent me running for one of the stalls, was what I saw on my phone screen. In the picture, the man's face wasn't covered by darkness. Everything else was dark, and only a shockingly white face showed clearly. Its eyes were two leaking pools of black, which joined with the equally black mouth at the bottom of the chinless face. There was no nose, only those three portals of drooping molten darkness. The almost lustrous ivory face seemed to float amidst the pitch-black background, hovering spectral visage of unwholesomeness. I locked myself in the middle stall, my usual preference, under less terrifying circumstances, and crouched atop the toilet. Just then, the lights of the bathroom went out, all at once. A soft noise arose. Raspy, stuttered breathing, like that of some mummy newly arisen from its age-old tomb. A few breathless, on my part, moments later, there was a sound to my right, at the first of the 5 stalls. I heard the sound of shattering porcelain and splashing water, which, in the oddly acoustic confines, sounded thunderous. Another second passed, and I heard the same sounds from the next stall, the one immediately to my right. At the destruction of that stall's toilet, I started to whimper, fearing for my life. And with a scream more horrific than anything I'd ever heard, the door of my stall was nearly broken off its hinges as something crashed into it. 3 more screams rang out, each followed by a stall-shaking impact. Somehow, through the mercy of God or the architectural aptitude of the bathroom's designers, the stall door held. The screaming, assaulting horror eventually relented, moving on to inflict its insane violence against the other 2 remaining stalls. Their toilets were mercilessly smashed to bits. At the completion of the violence, the lights came back on. Despite this, I remained perched atop the toilet for at least 10 more minutes, listening for even the slightest sound of someone or something lurking beyond the stall. Finally, after saying a prayer or two, I unlocked and opened my stall door and peered out into the bathroom. The floor was coated in water and littered with the shards of shattered toilets, but there was no one around. No man with his face obscured by shadows, no floating face. On my fear-weakened legs, I wobbled out of my stall, and at this moment, someone entered the bathroom. Someone plainly, wonderfully normal. They saw me, leaning weakly against the counter of the sinks, and saw the wreckage of the other toilets and said, "Did you have that chili cheese dog too? It's messing me up, man." I went home after that. I'll see the movie another time.